10 years ago, he couldn't confess to his high school world history teacher. He still regrets not having the courage to try. It wasn't an act of simple admiration. It was serious love on his part. The boy greeted the teacher and bowed his head at the same time. She responded to him in the same way. A love that could never be realized. After he fell asleep thinking about it, he woke up in the moment when he was still a middle school student. When he opened his eyes, he saw his classmate, Fujimoto, who he hadn't seen since they graduated high school, next to him. It seemed strange to him. For something too realistic a dream, well, it didn't matter. Since they're sitting next to each other, it's somewhere around the spring of his second year. Looking at his phone, he saw that it was April 24th, which means 10 years ago. He still has his memories, and if this isn't a dream, he's back to his second year of dreaded high school. The folding phone, that's nostalgia. Sanada thinks it's a time jump. Hiraji informed the class that class was over, but the teacher turned to the guy. Hiraji asked if he could come into the teacher's lounge after class was over. What a long time ago that was. Fujimoto laughed at Sanada and replied that the teacher would confiscate his phone. When Hiraji walked out of the classroom, the guy immediately started to catch up to her, addressing her. The guy turned to his classmate and informed him that he would be out for a while and would be back, to which Fujimoto replied that he would pray for his success. Sanada asked the teacher if something was wrong, to which she angrily replied that he must be well aware they used his phone during class. That's why Hiraji asks him to give it to her. It has that nice smell of her shampoo. Sanada remembers it for sure, her scent. She's definitely saying Hiraji's always liked her. Sanada thinks how nice it would be if it wasn't a dream after all. There's a possibility that his dream could end this very second. That's why he shouldn't miss his chances at this very moment. It was now or never. The guy pulled out his phone and took Hiraji's hand and turned. And then he said the very words that he loves her. He actually said it. Sanada thinks he was stupid and should have told you. Then asking for forgiveness. Those words took a lot of gasps, and so she asked about what he just said. I didn't hear it, was the answer, just like a stage. The guy was very confused and didn't know how to answer, but for sure he knew that he wouldn't get over it a second time. Sanada decided it wasn't worth risking a second time, so he replied that it was nothing and apologized again. Hearing this, Hiraji informed him that if that was the case, then he should come and pick up his phone after school. Sanada already thinks it's over and his second spring of life has already come to an end. Already sitting in class, Fujimoto was eating his and the guy's lunch, asked him about what it was like to have his phone confiscated. After school, Sanada walked up to the teacher's lounge and thought about what kind of face he should make, because what was he thinking at the time? But the thought that since she couldn't hear him, then he would just pretend like it was nothing. Sanada walked into the office, and since his memory didn't fail him, he easily remembered where Hiraji's seat was. It turned out to be. Hearing the sounds, Hiraji turned around. Noticing the guy at the door, she beckoned him over to her. The teacher decided to hand over the phone. Hiraji explained that she shouldn't do that, but she didn't like it at all. She doesn't like being strict. But rules are rules, and so she asked him to spend more time on the subject and not on the phone. But what Sanada was really thinking about was seeing and appreciating her bust. The teacher asked about whether he was listening to her at all. And then the guy directly reported what he saw from her. Hearing this, Hiraji immediately started buttoning her shirt. The guy was a little surprised by the gesture and asked about whether or not she was embarrassed by it. Hiraji thought about it and replied that in confidence, if she added shoes, then she thinks she would be happy. Sanada didn't understand what she was talking about. Now Hiraji was already confused. She explained that she said this because she was happy that a student like Sanada was in high school. She's very shy, so she was confused and asked Sanada not to say anything about it to anyone. Phones don't get returned to students that easily. If he promises her that he'll keep quiet about it, then she won't tell his class teacher about the incident with his phone in her class. Sanada is fine with it. Hiraji explains that it will be their little secret. It's his last chance. The guy asked about the fact that he could approach her if he wanted to talk to her, to which the teacher replied that she didn't think he should come again. The teacher's room is not the place to socialize. Hiraji asked the guy to hurry up and go home because she was still a little busy and had a few more things to do. The guy had already returned home and was still in thought. The confession didn't get through to her. It's both hurtful, and as far as he realized, the teacher asked that he not come to the teacher's room anymore. Sanada thinks she was happy he left the teacher's lounge. Even he could see that she was happy. Now he wondered if he'd ever get the chance again. It's complicated. The phone vibrated on the pedestal. The boy picked it up and thought it was Fujimoto, but when he saw who it was, he was shocked. The screen showed a message from Hiraji. Sanada didn't understand why. He didn't know if she had added herself when she confiscated his phone or not. He immediately realized that she had heard him then, so the problem wasn't that she hadn't heard him, but something else. A message came through. Hiraji wrote that she'd given it a lot of thought, so if he was comfortable communicating by mail, then everything was fine. He's fine with that. Victory. He wrote back thanking her and asking her to treat him favorably. The guy sneezed. Looks at his phone again. Closed it. It really piques his interest. Suddenly the phone vibrated again. It really freaked the guy out. The reply came so fast. The message said that she hoped they would get along. Hiraji was so surprised that he replied so quickly that she almost dropped the phone in the bathroom. It turns out she's taking a bath right now. The thought was driving the guy crazy. To her message, the guy replied to Hiraji not to think anything weird, and then asked about why she reciprocated him. He's referring to his confession. Hiraji wrote that she was very happy when he squeezed her hand tightly. She saw his eagerness as if it was the only chance in his life. It was very cute. Just because of her heartbeat alone, he can feel his happiness indicator filling up and poised to the brim. Sanada asked in her about how she looks at letting people know they are dating. And this is a thought, but she couldn't help it. Felt goosebumps run all over her body and she just fell in love. She loved the feeling. He's so happy right now. Sanada thought about something he hadn't thought about, the consequences of their relationship. They can't let themselves take risks. To which came the reply that tomorrow Hiraji will make lunch for Sanadik, so he should come and eat it together. Sanada thought about her and didn't sweat the issue. He texted her saying that he would be very happy to be made by her, but they don't have a place where they can eat it together. Unfortunately, if someone sees them together, that person will probably spread stuff about them. Hiraji replied that she had a key to the world history prep room, so no one would see them if they went there for lunch. He asked her that he would like some roasted vegetables from her as a side dish. Hiraji replied that she understood, order accepted, she would cook something interesting for tomorrow, and then added not to let him even try to fantasize about her taking a bath. Yeah, he wouldn't do anything like that. But a little later, he forgot what he had said to himself, and wishing himself peace, he fantasized. And the next day, he raced to the teacher's lounge. Hiraji asked him if there was something he didn't understand, to which he replied that there was something like that. During their 10-minute break, he went to see the one he had texted with for about 20 minutes last night. The teacher was talking, but the guy noticed her writing something in her notebook. It really surprised him. There was a question written in there about how he really liked what she was telling, to which Sanada wrote about how she was 25 years old and it was all that she cared about. Taking his gaze off to her side, he noticed her thighs and her skirt. He asked her, so he would need to answer in some way or another. Hiraji replied that she knew that memorizing names and places could cause some difficulty. But seeing what the guy had written on the sheet, she was surprised. It said that he noticed that she wore a skirt today, to which she asked about whether it looked good on her. It looks very nice, the guy informed her. She reasoned that it wasn't fair. But Sanada saw her face and thought about how she was so cute when she got shy. They were sitting in the teacher's lounge among the other teachers. Suddenly, Hiraji took the boy's hand. He didn't immediately understand why this 25-year-old teacher suddenly grabbed one of her students in the teacher's lounge. Hiraji squeezed his hand tighter and tighter. She informed him that this was her little revenge. The guy started to blush little by little. Hiraji noticed the guy's face, asked about his face blushing if he knew about it. Sanada blushed even more at that moment. The guy was thinking about how cute she was. How could such a cute girl be offended by such a naive place? He wondered about her blushing face, whether this was something that was taught in Eunice. Fujimoto furiously asked the guy what he meant by not having lunch with him. He explained to Sanada that friends are friends for spending their loneliness at lunch breaks together. They can complain about anything while they eat the lunchbox. On which Sanada apologized to his friend and informed him that he was expected elsewhere. Fujimoto was abandoned. He asked him to come back to him. Sanada was already outside the training room. He reasoned that he had lost so much time due to socializing with a loner. Entering the classroom, he apologized for the intrusion, but Sanada noticed something interesting. It was Hiraji on the step ladder. Hearing sounds, the teacher turned around and spotted Sanada. She informed him that she would be right down. She praised the boy for doing a good job in class, then asked about waiting for him while she got ready. He said yes. Sanada almost saw something interesting, just a little bit short. Already seated at the table, Hiraji asked if the guy could see what she had prepared, to which Sanada replied that she actually knew how to cook. It was fun. But Chitel only replied that he was teasing her, so she decided not to give him anything. Emotion, a pang of resentment. Sanada, on the other hand, replied that he thinks girls who can cook are very cute. Then Hiraji suggested to proceed to dinner. He embarrasses her so much. Opening the container, the couple saw what was filling it. Hiraji replied that she had prepared what he wanted, but not before the guy had no time to object. She knows he wanted something more normal. That's why she apologized. Maybe she should have added a few slices of lemon, But Sanada didn't think it was about the lemons, it was about her common sense. He didn't think it just wasn't much different from what he expected. Now Hiraji realized what the guy meant. She asked him something and gently rubbed the guy's cheeks. She figured he was expecting fried fish or something. But he didn't care about food, it was just that anyway. But no sooner had he finished speaking than he was interrupted. Hiraji replied that he was wrong, people who don't cook wouldn't understand. Sanada asked that the teacher not say that she was the type of person who could only see the trees but couldn't see the forest as a whole. To which the teacher replied that she looks through both her eyes and knows that there are even mountains about the robot road. Now it's clear that Hiraji has the wind in her head a lot of the time. She pulled out a second container and explained that the teacher needed to eat too. Seeing what was in it, Sanada thought to himself that it was perfectly normal cooked. The boy replied to Hiraji that it was right since he didn't have chopsticks anyway. But she informed that she didn't know that he wouldn't bring chopsticks with him. However, she hoped so. He didn't understand what she was getting at. Here. Hiraji took a piece of food. She asked him to open his mouth wide. Sanada is so happy. He hopes he won't die soon because this is so much like an omen. Hiraji asked about whether it was delicious, to which he replied that yes, it's chilled but tasty. After that, she put something else in his mouth. The guy thought it was the same thing, but it turned out to be octopus. Hiraji asked him whether he thought it was pretty good or not, but suddenly sounds from the direction of the door interrupted their lunch. The teacher at the door didn't understand why it was locked. Hiraji asked Sanada to hide. He didn't understand where exactly. The teacher entered the room. But seeing that Hiraji's teacher was there, she said okay. Hiraji explained that she wanted to look for some materials while she ate lunch, to which she replied that she could see and ask that Hiraji remember to properly lock the room later. The danger seems to have receded for the moment. He could see her view perfectly. He didn't realize what Hiraji was doing to him. But the guy was getting closer and closer, trying to make out everything there. Hiraji turned to Sanada and informed him that it was over. She left and wondered how he was and if he was too scared. But the guy with a nonchalant face informed that there was a gorgeous view from under the table. Hiraji asked about what he meant and if he had seen them. She asked for an answer she would understand, to which the guy replied that the octopus turned out really juicy, delicious. Hiraji asked about what color they were, but Sanada said he didn't know. He was only admiring Malavish's ceremonial square and chewing on the octopus. She asked if this was true, to which the reply followed that it was very unexpected. He was afraid to be seen. He sat and looked at the table, the black side of the table. But the teacher replied that she wouldn't have been able to resist, and yet he was still a schoolboy. But Sanada thought about how embarrassing, and yet there are advantages of her wind in his head. On this Saturday afternoon, the teacher has no plans. Hiraji was on the phone with Sanada. She asked about what he thought she wanted to do. He didn't understand the question, so he asked again about her wanting to play games on the comm, to which Hiraji replied that she didn't revive. She went on to say that since he has a girlfriend, would he want to ask her out? That's basically what it's all about.